Hi guys, I'm Jess from Honest Fiction and welcome back to my channel. It's finally December, the weather is getting colder, and typically I would watch a ton of corny Hallmark movies while I'm doing my wrapping or some last minute online shopping. However, this year I did something different and I ordered 5 highly recommended holiday rom-com books. So I typically don't read a ton of romance, however, I think that will be forever changed because I really enjoyed these 5 books. So stick around to hear my reviews for these great festive holiday reads. The first book on my list is In a Holidaze by Christina. I really enjoyed this book. I saw it all over BookTube in October, and then Goodreads said it was pretty good. So the story follows May, and she goes on vacation every year with her family and friends to this cabin. And one year she's having a terrible time. It ends up being a horrible Christmas. And on her way home, she's in an accident, which causes her to relive Christmas over and over again, pretty much Groundhog's Day, until she can figure out what makes her happy. And I really enjoyed this. I thought it was great. I assumed this was going to be kind of an insta-love story just because of how short it was, and that wasn't the case at all. There's actually a whole background prior to the story that takes place, which I really appreciated. I think this is a great book to jump into if you're new to contemporary romance like I was, only because it's really short. You can read it fairly quickly, so if for some reason you end up not being a fan of contemporary romance, you didn't waste your time. But overall, I thought it was a really enjoyable and fun holiday read. So the next book on my list, I'm gonna have a really hard time reviewing. It's The Tourist Attraction by Sarah Morgenthaler. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. She has another book on my list. I'm probably gonna say it wrong again. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. So it follows Zoe, who is a tourist, and she's been saving up pretty much her whole life to go to Alaska to Moose Springs, which is this really posh resort where everyone is very rich, and her best friend actually is staying there and goes there every year. So she's going to visit her best friend. And her best friend introduces her to Graham, who I can best describe as Luke from Gilmore Girls, for those of you who are Gilmore Girls fans. He's just this like grumpy owner of a diner that he doesn't like tourists. He wants it just to be locals only, but for some reason it's become famous. So all of these tourists keep going to his diner, and he and Zoe start a relationship. And it's kind of hard because, like I said, Luke doesn't like tourists and Zoe's a tourist. So book pretty much goes from there. It's definitely a comedy. I was laughing out loud throughout a lot of this book. But let me start by saying, when I first started this book, I hated it for the first like 50 or so pages, and it's a pretty long book. I think it's over 400, but over 400 pages? Yeah. But anyway, I wasn't a huge fan of it going into it, and when I was like a little less than halfway, I told my husband that I was probably gonna give up on it and just not finish reading it. Then something clicked, and I adored it. I remember being at the grocery store and having to get out and like listening to this book for another 20 minutes while it finished. You know what book's really good? When you can't get your errands done because you just want to read it. I loved it so much. I loved the relationship. I love Zoe. I love Graham. I love the side characters. This was my favorite book in the list, and I hope that other people pick it up and enjoy it as much as I did. If you've read this, please let me know in the comments so we can talk about it, because I really like this book. Next up is Mistletoe and Mr. Right, and this is set in the same town as the last book, The Tourist Attraction. It's also by Sarah Morgenthaler, and it's part of her Moose Springs, Alaska series. I didn't enjoy this one quite as much as I enjoyed The Tourist Attraction. The romance just didn't really do it for me. It was still very funny and very enjoyable. It follows Lana, who's the friend in the other book, as she is, I don't know if I can say it because it's kind of a spoiler, as she's doing something that she started doing in The Tourist Attraction, and the town is kind of against her. And she meets Rick, who is the owner of a bar, and he's kind of shy and quiet while she's very outgoing, and they start a romance together, a little Christmas romance. And while all that's going on, there's also a Santa Moose that is going around and destroying all the Christmas lights. So while this budding romance is happening, Lana is also trying to find and relocate the Santa Moose. Like I said, it's definitely a comedy. It also, both of these books feature a border collie, and I grew up with border collies. My dad still has one now, and they just hold a special place in my heart, so I absolutely loved that. But either way, I did enjoy this book. I thought it was funny. Some of the humor didn't hit the way the last book did. Like, it was fine. It just wasn't, I wasn't cracking up in my car like I was with the tourist attraction. Still good. I believe Sarah Morgenthaler has a third book in the series coming out in January, and I will definitely be picking that up. Like I said, wasn't my favorite out of the 5, but still an enjoyable, fun read. Still very much like a Hallmark movie. Definitely check it out. Next up is The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayliss. So this book follows 34-year-old Katie, who is a designer. She's very happy with her job. She's very happy with the small town she lives in. She has 2 best friends, Lauren and Matt. Matt owns a bakery that she's been going to since she was a child, and her life is pretty great, except she hasn't found a man yet. So her friend Lauren signs her up for the 12 Dates of Christmas, which is this really cool idea, actually. It's people meet and they end up going on 12 dates with 12 different guys, and they're all winter or Christmas themed. So like one of them was ice skating, another one was gingerbread making, and just really cute dates to that nature. So she goes on these dates trying to find the right man, and it pretty much goes from there. And I really enjoyed this. It ended up being a little bit deeper than I was expecting. Based on the cover, I was kind of thinking this would be more of a rom-com, a lot of comedy, and just like a cutesy story. But it wasn't. I mean, it kind of tackles some of the stuff that would happen if you go on dates with people that you don't know. It really doesn't glorify it in any way. And I really appreciated that. It was definitely different than the previous 3. I think if you want more of a romantic comedy, then go for the 3 I just mentioned. But if you want a like deeper winter romance, I think this would be a really, really good pick. The last book on my list is One Day in December by Josie Silver. This story follows Lori, and she's on a bus stop and sees the man of her dreams outside the bus stop and isn't able to get to him. So they lock eyes, and then the bus goes away, and she spends a year searching for him because just love at first sight. And unfortunately, she doesn't find him, and she's pretty much given up hope. And then her best friend, Sarah, wants her to meet the new boyfriend in her life, and it ends up being her mystery man, Jack. So she has to deal with the fact that her best friend is dating who she thinks could be the love of her life, and go from there. Honestly, I DNF'd this book, and then I ended up picking it back up. The beginning makes you feel a little icky, or at least it did for me. I just didn't like the idea of a girl pining after her boyfriend's partner. It just, I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy the beginning. I eventually decided to pick it back up, and I continued, and it did get better. I did end up really, really enjoying this by the end. I will say I never liked the main love interest in this. I just think he's not the best person, and I kept trying to like him, but I did like Lori enough that it kind of made up for it, and I still enjoyed the story as a whole. I just wish the romantic lead wasn't quite as self-absorbed as I felt he was. But to each his own. I think there will be a lot of people that like this. This is lighter on the comedy and is a little bit more, has a little bit more adult language in it, so just be wary of that. But overall, still an enjoyable read. I really liked it. If you want something that's a little bit more angsty and it's a romance in the winter, then I would definitely pick this one up. All right, guys, that's it for my holiday romance recommendations. Thank you so much for watching my video. If there are any books that I left out of this list that you think are perfect for the holidays, please let me know in the comments. Like I said, I'm really starting to get into the romance genre and want to continue this wonderful holiday adventure. So if you don't know, I post new videos every Tuesday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.